Hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's business education webinar. I'm excited to bring to you the program called Conquering Your Goals. I designed this to help entrepreneurs and business leaders to really be able to add value to themselves and to their organizations. And a lot of people might be thinking, why do you do something like this? And for me, the reason I'm doing this is I know that leaders never stop learning. I know that you're always hustling. I know that you work smart and you work hard, and you're always looking for ways to work better. And these programs, this program today is something that will help you work better. So I'm so glad that you've decided to join us here today for Conquering Your Goals. A little bit about me. Want to introduce myself to you if you aren't familiar with me. I'm educated as a doctor of chiropractic, never practiced in the practice of chiropractic, but got involved in banking and higher education leadership and manufacturing. Served as a corporate executive for 22 years. Founded my own consulting business a couple years ago called Authentic Leadership Group. I'm a coach with the Clifton Strengths Finders. I'm a disc consultant, and I'm licensed and certified with empowerment mentoring and the John Maxwell team. And I'll talk about John Maxwell here in just a minute. I also just got a new certification through Evernote. I'm a community leader, an Evernote community leader, so I'm really excited about that, to be able to bring some more programs around time management and productivity through the Evernote app, which I just absolutely love. And then I'm also a member of a speakers bureau through a malpractice insurance company in the chiropractic profession, delivering continued education programs. So I'm excited that you're with me here today. Please know that this program is it's my opinions, it's my thoughts that go into this. So nobody else's. So I do want to introduce you to this guy. Here I am with John Maxwell himself. John has been a mentor, an influencer, a role model in my life. Really for over 25 years. I've been reading his books. He's written over 100 books. And he has a team of coaches, speakers, and trainers that turns 10 this year. And he has a coach, speaker, trainer in every country in the world. And I'm excited to be part of that team. I'm an executive director, and that means I just have more access to programs around teamwork, around sales, around leadership development, around speaking, entrepreneurship. There are just a lot of great things out there that we have, and I'm really excited to be part of the facilitation team for a new book that John has coming out the end of January called Change Your World. That launches on January 26th, his book, and we'll be doing some transformation roundtables soon after that, and I'm excited to be leading one of those for John as we launch his book. So, enough about me. Let's get into a little bit about conquering your goals, the purpose of, why we are here today. So what I want to do is I want to start with just a quick overview of a couple things that I think are really important, at least when I teach this stuff. And I'm gonna bring up my my iPad here and hope that you can see that. Give me just a quick second. Yeah. So, well, maybe it'll come up here. There we go. One of the premises that I have in all the work that I do is to understand that we as humans exist on three different planes. We exist on a spiritual plane. Now, we are spiritual beings who are gifted with an intellect. Living in and through a physical body. And I think that's important when it comes to goal setting. And I'll give you the construct for this. There's something, a mind-body connection. I'm going to give you an example of what that looks like here. So this is known as a stick person, and the large circle is the mind, and the small one is the body. And this concept was actually created by a chiropractor, believe it or not, in the 1930s, Dr. Thurman Fleet. He was based out of San Antonio. And it just is so important today, I think, when it comes to personal development, personal growth, the work you're doing in leadership, goal setting, everything that we do. So the mind, I'm not talking the brain here, I'm talking the mind. The mind is divided into two parts. There is the conscious mind and the subconscious. Two different parts that we have in how our brain works. Now, the conscious mind is our intellectual mind. And this is really, where we think. And that's important because when it comes to the intellect, we have 6 different intellectual faculties. We have perception, we have will, we have imagination, we have memory, we have intuition, and we have reason or reasoning. And those are all part of the thinking process that we do, and those impact our ability when it comes to conquering our goals. Now, the subconscious mind is our emotional mind. And in here is where our BS resides. And by BS, I mean our belief systems. And sometimes that can be also known as our limiting beliefs. Now, we get thoughts and ideas from, all over the place, but for the sake of what I'm talking about today, there's really 5 major ways that we get inspired with an idea, and that's through our senses. We see, we hear, we smell, we taste, we touch. And so when that idea or thought comes to us, it has to go through a process with our thinking mind and our emotional mind. And out of that, then our body starts to create actions or behaviors. And so that happens on the physical level. There are actions and behaviors that we have as human beings down here. And ultimately, what those do is they generate our results. So understand that there is a process where spiritual beings, gifted with an intellect, living in and through a physical body. And so when we talk about goal setting and goal achieving here a little bit today, we need to bring all 3 of these planes of existence into our awareness. Most of the time, when we're stuck with goal setting stuff, it's because we're living in the physical realm. We forget about the intellectual side and the spiritual side, and that's why we do not succeed when it comes to goal setting. So I just want you to be aware of, a little bit about how we think and how we can generate results in the work that we do and as we're setting goals. All right, so let's go back here to this here. I wanted to kind of lay that framework for you a little bit to understand how I'm going to approach this with you today. So our agenda for today is to take a little bit of this information, but I want to set an intention with you. I want to do, we're going to talk about the difference between goal setting and goal achieving. Then we're going to break down the goal process, and we're going to talk a little bit about goals roadmap and or a dashboard that you can create to help you with your goals. And then we'll wrap it up talking about how to embrace failures and how to celebrate success as we go through this process. So I always like to begin these programs about setting an intention, and really want you to take a moment. You signed up for this program. You wanted, there was something that intrigued you with this. What is it that is your intention for today's program? So take just a quick moment and write down your thought for a minute. What is your intention with today's program? All right, so as we begin the process of talking about how to conquer your goals, there's something that I like to begin with here. And you have an intention now, but I think the process really starts with remembering and creating and going through a process where you remember what impacted you in 2020. Remember what happened to you in 2020. So think about that. What happened in 2020 that made an impact on you? What experiences did you have that were positive or negative? What skills did you develop over the course of the year? What projects did you accomplish or not accomplish in 2020? When I think about lessons learned in 2020 when I went through this process, a couple simple things. I think we learned that life is short. Death is sure. We don't get out of this alive. I think we also learned that jobs are temporary. We learned that health is wealth. We learned that tomorrow is not promised. And another thing that I think is important when it comes to the process we're going through today is that people who are specific get rewarded. So those are some lessons that I learned when I remember what happened in 2020. Now, the other side of that is to think about creating 2021. So think about, what would you like your biggest triumph to be in 2021? What advice would you give to yourself to prepare for this year? What would you be most happy about completing? What would you like to change about yourself this year? Is there something that you're really looking forward to learning? Maybe you're thinking about taking a risk. What is the biggest personal risk you might take this year? Or maybe you have an undeveloped talent or an undeveloped strength, and you need to spend some time really creating or manifesting more inside of that strength. There's a challenge that has been going around for several years, and it's about creating one word that kind of defines the year for you. And I can tell you that when I think about 2020, my word at the end of the year was disruption. But as I went through this process, I got real excited about 2021. And my word that is going to be my theme for 2021 is prosperity. So if you have a word for the year, be thinking about that as we get into this process here a little bit, as you set a theme for the year. All right, so with goal setting, I want you to understand that it is different than goal achieving. It took me a very long time to understand this whole process between goal setting and goal achieving. Goal setting is an intellectual process. So we go back to those 6 intellectual faculties. We're using our mind to really help define what those goals are. Goal achieving is a lawful process. And I'm talking here about what I like to call the 7 universal laws. And these are laws that really govern the way we think and the way that we behave. And I'm not going to cover all 7 of those today, but there are 2 of them that I do want to make you aware of. The first one is called the law of gender. The law of gender is really about gestation. It says that when you plant a seed, there's a gestation period until you can enjoy the harvest. So the law of gender, any time that we're inspired with an idea, right, that comes at the spiritual level into us, from the time that seed is planted, there is a gestation period. There is a time of gender that is required before we can harvest the seed, before we can harvest, the benefits that come from that idea. So understand the law of gender. Now, farmers know that, from the time they plant a seed, they know exactly how many days it takes before they harvest that seed. The challenge we have with human beings is from the time we plant the idea or the seed in our intellect, we have no idea how long that gestation period is. We don't know. And so it's a challenge for us because we don't know, we don't see. And the other part is, if we both have the same idea or the same goal, you may accomplish it before I do, because that period of time that is required for you is shorter than for me. So understand that the law of gender has an impact on goal achieving. The other one we're going to talk about is the law of rhythm, and I'll get into that one here just in a little bit. So setting your goals, this process really requires you to think about, where you're going in the future. And it starts with remembering where you've come from and what you've learned from the last year, and then, creating things in the future for yourself. Once you have a vision of what the future looks like, it's really your goals that provide the direction, the motivation, and the framework to take action necessary to achieve them. So, a goal is easy to set, right? But a good goal is tied to something meaningful. It has to be measurable, it has to be specific, it has to have a time frame to it. But understand the first step to an achievable goal is to really find out what motivates it. What really is that desire that you have to accomplish and meet that goal? What purpose are you serving? And purpose is a very important part of goals. Purpose is really your why. It's the filter through which every decision that you make in your life goes through. It's how you direct your creative power. Your purpose is kind of like the sun. Everything revolves around it. So if you don't have a good purpose statement, I would begin there. Set a purpose for yourself and understand a purpose is something that will last a long time. It will change as the seasons in your life change, but purpose is one of those things that you could have for 5 to 10 years, and it really, like I said, is that filter that is so important. Once you've defined your purpose, then you start thinking about goals. I want you to begin with the end in mind, and there's something about having a goal. And I'll be honest, I have failed miserably with goal setting over the years, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into this program. But a goal that is set properly can really give you a sense of achievement, a sense of excitement, and especially if you have a team that you're working with. Having goals is something that you can play up as a leader, you can play up as a manager to help keep people engaged, help people keep excited about what it is that you're accomplishing. So, what do you stand for? If you're struggling with your purpose, I want you to think about, what do you stand for? And I can tell you, give you an example of my purpose. My purpose, is to really be the very best teacher and communicator that I can be of the principles of human potential and creation, to guide other people to the full awareness of their purpose and their oneness with their Creator, while being in harmony with the law of compensation. Now, the law of compensation is not one of the 7 universal laws, but I still think it's a very important part of your purpose. I don't want to be poor. I want to live from abundance. In a wellness group that I run, we have several hundred members, and we've kind of developed a motto around building our businesses. And that motto is, the more money that I make, the healthier the world becomes. Think about that with your business and with your personal life. The more money you make, the healthier the world becomes. So it's important that you're in your purpose, you do have a financial consideration. You have to be in alignment with the law of compensation, because if you're just doing everything for free, it's not going to work. It is not going to work. Another part of this is really your values, or in your company values, and they lie at the heart of business, and they serve as really a foundation for setting and achieving goals. So identifying your company's core values is really a fundamental step on this road to success. And once you've established what those values are, you have to answer to a very important question. Why do I do what I do? Why do I do what I do? It goes back to your why. It goes back to your purpose. And if your values are not in alignment and supporting that, we need to start over again. So it's this why that you lead with. It's what you stand for. Take a stand. Put a stake in the ground. Your company, your product, your service is worth promoting, right? You're worth promoting, but you have to stand for something. That is really the basis that will help you define your goals and put a plan in place in which to achieve them. So we have a purpose. The next part of this is really to create a vision for yourself. And so visualization is a great way to put energy behind an idea to really help it come to life. It involves a process of taking your purpose, and then with your vision statement is going to be lengthy. It's going to change on a regular basis. It's something that you're going to carry with you daily. And a vision statement is something that you may have a vision for every domain of your life. And that's great. That's okay. You want that, because when you have a very crystal clear mental image, when you can visualize what it is that you want, it becomes easier to set your goals. Your goals will start identifying themselves naturally, because you have a very clear vision of what it is that you want. Now, some people have vision boards, and they're very popular. There's all kinds of vision board parties that are going on virtually or in person. In offices I've worked in, we've actually had large cork boards or bulletin boards or whiteboards where we would post a vision of what it is we were wanting to accomplish. These images, these ideas, the ways to communicate, ways to focus were really great ways to encourage the team to stay in alignment with what we were trying to accomplish, to really help us achieve that goal. one way to practice visualization is to really include it in your routine, right? Most people nowadays have a morning routine and a workday startup routine. I can tell you, when I was a corporate executive, we had morning huddles, we had weekly meetings, we had monthly meetings. We had a rhythm of how we did things. When it comes to visualization, we included it as part of our daily morning huddle. And in that time, we would just come together just for a few minutes. We would relax, we would try to clear the mind, and really we wanted our ideas to start flowing. And it was a great time to come together as a team. It was a creative time where we came together. And I can tell you that one thing I learned is we really got caught up sometimes in trying to figure out how we would accomplish something. When you're in the visualization stage, you do not want to be thinking about how you're going to accomplish it. Matter of fact, one of my mentors, he calls this one of the mistakes of goal achieving. It's to become attached to the how, particularly in the visualization stage. And what happens is when you require the knowledge of how, it stymies you. It stymies the creative process, and you're not able to progress. As a matter of fact, more than likely, you're going to end up giving up on that goal because you do not have the ability to think how this is going to get done. Don't allow that to happen. In this stage of visualizing your goal, you need to stay in what we call the land of possibility. Anything is possible, right? You have unlimited potential. You need to suspend the requirement of knowing how. Do not become attached to any outcome. Those hows are what become your goals, right? So forget about how. Stay in the land of possibility. Stay in that creative state, in the creative process. Visualization is a powerful thing, and really what goes with this is the imagination. It's one of those intellectual faculties I mentioned earlier. There has been some great science behind imagination and visualization. It started in the early 90s at Harvard Medical School, and some work that some researchers were doing there on imagination and on visualization. And they actually took two groups of piano players and gave them a new piece of music. And one group had 2 days with the piano, with the music to learn it. The other group was given the same sheet of music, but they were put it in their own rooms without a piano. And they were instructed to just visualize playing the piece, the new piece of music. Well, what they discovered is that those people who visualized the piece, visualized playing the piece, imagined that they were playing it, did just as well with the people who had a piano and were practicing it, right? So, it's awesome because science is telling us that this whole visualization process can really, shape our reality. It is true. There's science behind it. Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich said that, anything that we can believe, we can achieve. And the science is now showing us that this visualization process is such an important part of what we can accomplish in our lives. All right, I'm sure you've heard about the Pareto principle, right? It's that 80-20 rule that's based on the concept that people naturally divide into two groups. Think about it maybe with your sales team. Your top 20% of those achievers, and then 80% of the people are the people that are the non-achievers, right? Another way to think about it is from a financial perspective is that 20% of your customers drive 80% of your revenue. The businesses that I worked in, that was very true. Our top performing customers drove the majority of the revenue that we generated. But you can also apply this to goals. And one of the things I learned early on in the goal setting process, I learned from Mark Victor Hansen, and that was to write out anything that I thought of a goal, write it in a book, a 3-ring binder, and as you accomplish it, take a red pen and write victory next to the goals that you accomplished. Well, that was great for a while. But the reality was, over time, I had an awful lot of goals that did not have victory written next to it, and it kind of became demoralizing over time. And the reality was, a lot of those goals really weren't in alignment with who I was or what I was trying to accomplish at the time. My purpose had changed. My vision for what I wanted in my life changed. So if you're a person that has a tremendous amount of goals written down, that's great. But what I want you to do is go and take the top 20% of those goals, and come up with If you have 10 goals, it's 2 goals, right? If it's 100 goals, come up with your top 10, and I'd ask you to even get that down to your top 2 or 3. The top 2 or 3 things that are really, going to make an impact for you, that are really going to drive the transformation, the change, or the results that it is that you're wanting. Focus on the few that will make the impact. And that's what leveraging the 80-20 rule is about, and leveraging the Pareto principle. It's an important part of goal setting. Don't get overwhelmed. Focus on the specific. Remember I mentioned earlier that being specific will really help you drive your results. There are short-term and long-term goals to set when you're building a strategy for your future, for yourself and for your business. And really it's important that you have a plan in place for both of them. A long-term goal is going to be anywhere between 3 to 5 years ahead into the future. And they really should be created based on your company's big picture objectives. The short-term goals, on the other hand, are going to be anywhere from a few months to a few years. And they should always work to support the long-term goal. Now I will tell you, if you haven't worked your goal setting muscles in some time, the short-term goals may become a day goal. Set a goal in the morning that you want to accomplish that day. As you accomplish day goals, you start building that muscle, so it gets easier for you to get to those quarterly goals or those annual goals. But you do have to work your muscle a little bit when it comes to these things. So I want to take a look at what this kind of looks like. So a long-term goal, think long-term. The basis for these goals should really be aligned with your company's mission and reflect your why, the purpose of the business. These big picture goals are really what set the course for the future. It's what gets people excited about investing in your company or becoming a customer or a client with you. Generally, a long-term goal involves growth in and probably one of 4 different areas for your company. The service you provide, there's a social aspect around it, there's the financial aspect, and there's growth. So the service side long-term is really relating to increasing your customer service, or as we like to say, your customers who are happy. And not just happy, but they're raving fans, right? And part of that service is retention and attraction of new customers. On the social side of things, a long-term goal might involve something that you're doing to give back to the community that you're in. On the financial side, it's really about profit, right? We need to increase profits by a specific amount. That goes back to that law of compensation piece that I talked about earlier. And then growth. And this is really related to your employees and to the development of yourself and of your company. Now, when it comes to your short-term goals or your short-term objectives, this is really what's going to drive the day-to-day activities that are happening in your business. So, these long-term goals, they're broad, and they serve a higher purpose, but these short-term objectives really need to be specific and be designed to execute within a shorter time frame, right? Anywhere from a day to a year or so. These goals also support this overarching goal that, and it allows you to measure your progress along the way as you accomplish them. And we'll talk a little bit about measurement here in a moment. So long-term goals, thinking long-term, and having these short-term objectives are really important pieces that you need in your goal-setting process. Now I want to talk about, the SMART goal setting or SMART planning. You've all heard this before, with short-term goals. These are really the actionable items, and they require specificity. They require a time frame. They require a strategy for measuring how they get you closer to your overall long-term goal. And so that's, the SMART planning. You've heard this before. SMART is an acronym, right, for specificity. What is your specific goal? For measurability, how do you measure your progress towards your long-term goal? A is for achievability. What do you gain by achieving this goal? And is it achievable? R is for relevance. What does achieving this goal mean for your business? And I will tell you, I also like that R stands for riskiness. I think there's some excitement that a team can have. The riskier a goal is, if there's a little bit of risk there for them, there's a challenge. And I like that there might that you would include some risk in setting that goal. And of course, T stands for timeliness. It's the time frame that you want to use to accomplish that goal. But I'm going to give you a warning here. And I got caught up in this myself. I'll be honest with you. Another mistake of goal achieving is that we get caught up in planning. Right? We spend way too much time trying to plan how we're going to get there. And honestly, we think about that we have to have every step planned out before we begin the process of goal achieving. And you're not going to succeed if you need to have it planned out every step of the way. Matter of fact, your goal is going to be dead on arrival as soon as you set it. If you put all your passion and your creative energy into this plan, it's just not going to work because your plans are limited to what you already know. And what you already know is your memory, one of those intellectual faculties, your past. You don't know what you don't know. And when you set a goal, it needs to be something that you're striving for. And so, it's the point of that goal is to set something, to achieve something that you have yet to experience. Remember, the goal achievement is a lawful process, and so it's important that your focus is on the future, not the past. Put your energy, your focus into creating results that line up with your goals. And when you achieve a result, here's what's important with the smart planning part, I think, is to document the process along the way. So as you document what you're learning along the way, you can continue to create results. You can grow your vision for what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And then, of course, you don't, as you document mistakes that you make, you do not create those mistakes again in the past because now you have an awareness of them that you did not have before. So do not get caught up in planning when it comes to the smart planning part of this. Staying on track with your goals is going to be a challenge. But one way to really help you, stay motivated with this and with your team is to make sure that you're sharing your goals with other people. You're creating visibility. And what that means is just, another level of accountability. And when you have that level of accountability, if it's done right, it can increase your motivation to accomplish these goals. So there's three things I want you to consider when you're trying to create visibility with your goals. There's accountability, there's clarity, and there's connection. Accountability, again, is sharing your ideas with others. It makes you more accountable because as you create this audience, you're more likely to follow through because all these eyes are on you. And you can create accountability through a mastermind group or an accountability group. You could have a coach or a manager who is holding you accountable to the activities that you're working towards achieving. Clarity, and this is where when you share your goals, it allows other people to see them and allows you to see them outside of yourself. And as you do that, you gain clarity to gauge, really, do I need to modify this goal? So when you verbalize your goal to somebody else, you're going to have an experience like, yeah, that's right on, or no, I actually need to modify this just a little bit. You gain clarity. You gain focus when you talk about these with people. The third thing with this visibility piece is connection. And so sharing your goals will help you grow your circle of people, your circle of influence. And more than likely, you will start attracting people, like-minded people, who can help contribute to your progress of that goal. So you want to create visibility for your goals with people that are around you. You may have a clear vision for the direction of where you want to go and where you want your company to go, but it's also vital, to your success that you really have your team on board to execute the vision. If you're in a business, goal achievement is not going to happen by yourself. It requires a team. So this goes into this the law of rhythm, and I talked a little bit about that earlier with your meeting schedules, your morning huddles, your quarterly meetings, whatever that operating rhythm is that you have some sort of cadence to how you do business, and that's what this is all about. When you have that rhythm, you can monitor easily the progress that you're making towards that goal. You can also do check-ins with your team. Are they losing focus on the goal? Are they losing excitement on the goal? Or have they discovered some obstacles that as a team maybe you need to discuss about? having these check-ins is just a great way to review progress and to evaluate that the short-term goal is still relevant to what it is you're trying to accomplish. It also just serves as a great way to bring the team together, right? To understand, are we making progress towards our goal? Is our company making progress to our goal? And there's a level of transparency here that keeps the team engaged, it keeps them motivated, and it just, the more you do it, the clearer their picture becomes of the tasks that they need to do to help achieve that bigger picture goal. So make sure that you understand that there is a rhythm that happens here. Now, I would tell you what I've learned with the law of rhythm. All that is just, it tells us that energy ebbs and flows, right? Here's a good example. Think of your favorite beach in Florida and go out to January 11th of 2045 and type in, what time will the sun rise on Jupiter Beach? It will tell you exactly when the sun's going to rise. Think about that for a minute. How does that happen, right? Well, there are rhythms out there, and these rhythms do not change. Just like in the ocean, the high tide, the low tide, we know 10 years from now when that is going to happen. But here's the thing. When we're out of rhythm, and this is what got me in trouble when it came to goal setting, why I really felt I was a failure. When I would get out of rhythm, I thought I failed. And so I would give up on a goal. And I didn't lose faith in the bigger picture or anything like that, but I stopped going after that goal when I was out of rhythm. I didn't realize, especially on a spiritual level, that I need to make time for myself. I need to make time for rest and relaxation. I need to make time to recuperate, to get my energy back. And if you don't do that, you hit these brick walls. And so it's important that you understand there are times in your life, there are rhythms. And I'm sure you know this in the work that you do, in the business that you do. There are times when work flows easily. But there are other times where it's very difficult and it's very muddy and the process is slow. That's a sign to understand that the rhythm is saying, hey, you need to rest. You need to clear your mind. So understand that about rhythm is so important to the goal setting that we do. And just because we're out of rhythm doesn't mean we can give up on a goal, that we failed in a goal. It just means we need to rest, recuperate, relax, get some new perspective on what's going on, and then it will become clear with us what is the next action step that we have to take. When it comes to goals, you need to devote time and money towards them to achieve them, right? So think about it. If one of your goals is to offer a better level of customer service or to generate those raving fan customers, you may need to allocate funds to hire real people to answer the phones instead of opting for something that is automated, right? So you have to align your resources with your goals, and that also means that some plans or activities take a back seat to your top priorities, and that is okay. The more attention you give to your goals, the better the likelihood of achieving them become. Make sure you're in alignment with your goals. Now, it's important to be aware of that when you're setting your goals, that there's this compounding effect of consistency. So if you're doing things on a daily basis, the impact of that is exponential on your ability to achieve your goals. But I also want you to understand that, we talked about this rhythm and having meetings and things like that. If you're in a business and you have several teams that are working on separate yet concurrent goals, you need to make sure that these teams are communicating together on a consistent basis to ensure that your goals don't end up running counter to one another. So an example of this would be a company that's under the gun financially. They're looking to cut costs by reducing headcount, yet they're still trying to meet revenue goals and generate new revenue. And to do that requires more team members to achieve. So you could have two teams concurrently working on goals that are working against each other. And so being in rhythm with your regular meetings will provide some consistency that will help identify when these opportunities arise. So, a good rule of thumb is to create a roadmap for your goals, and that's what we're going to kind of get into next here. Your goal roadmap. This is a visual chart of the objectives that you're trying to accomplish, of the steps necessary to achieve them. So each department of a company typically has a targeted goal that supports the overall overarching organizational goal, separate from other departments, right? So it's a good idea to create a chart to house all these departmental goals and really put them in a visual format. And then as you do that, you'll make sure that none of your goals are running counter to another. So this is sometimes called a process performance metric. And there's some simple tools that you can use to help visualize this. A pie chart is a simple way to display and track your departmental goals to make sure that they're all in alignment with each other. An example of this would be a pie chart that might have 4 different pieces to it, 4 different perspectives. So from a business perspective, you could have a learning and growing strategy. And so that's focused on internal, your employee satisfaction, your employee skills and education, employee turnover. Another perspective would be the customer perspective. The customer satisfaction, your net promoter score, customer retention, the strength of your brand. A third piece would be the financial perspective, right? The revenue, the expenses, the net income. Those are important things to be looking at. And then maybe an internal process perspective. So if you have product, you're looking at your inventory, your orders, the quality control, supply chain. You're monitoring a lot of those things through a simple pie chart. Now, I can tell you what I used a lot was something that we developed called a goal dashboard. GOAL was an acronym, GOAL. Goal was for goals, O objectives, actions, and lists. And what we did is every employee on our team had their own goal dashboard. So the goals, there's actually 3 parts to the goals, the roadmap that we had here. The first goal was the organizational goal, for the year. What was it that the organization established as their goals for the year? Most companies I worked in, we had anywhere from 3 up to one company we would have 8 to 10 every year, which was too many. So you have your organizational goal, and then we had departmental goals. Then the third level of that was personnel goals. And that's where the team came into play. So they understood what the organization was trying to accomplish. They understood what the department needed to accomplish to help the organization out. Then we broke that down into the personnel goals. And from that, we created objectives that were done on a quarterly basis. So they had objectives that they were focused on for every 13-week period. From those objectives, we broke down into the monthly actions that they needed to do to meet those objectives. And from that, we would then create a list. And that list was really the task list of what needed to be done on a weekly basis. And so you can get very granular with this and very specific, but remember, the specific get rewarded. The more specificity you have, the more clarity you have, the more your people understand what they need to do to help you achieve your goals. Now, in that goal dashboard, we did have a parking lot thing as well. So as new ideas came or new projects came that weren't originally scheduled, we wanted to see that. So when we had our monthly team meetings or weekly team meetings, we would talk about those things, and then we allow us to prioritize where they needed to fall into the work that needed to be done. We also tracked any new actions or any new objectives that were identified, so that at the end of the year, if we didn't meet a goal that the company was still working on, we knew why. What distractions occurred, and was it a distraction that really took us away from the core work that we started to do at the beginning of the year? That's what having a dashboard like that or a roadmap is really critical to your success to help you identify that. So measuring your goals with milestones. Milestones are something that we've all heard about, right? In our businesses, these are just checkpoints that mark or measure the steps along the way to achieving a goal. Setting milestones for your goals really allows you the visibility to determine whether or not your goals are tracking successfully. So a good way to set milestones is to collaborate with the person or the teams responsible for executing your goals to establish what the milestones should be and how often they should be reviewed. So I think for me, the big part when it comes to measuring goals with milestones is that you really have to incorporate the team into this decision-making process to identify what these milestones are. And when you do that, it creates this sense of ownership, and it fosters this enthusiasm. It fosters buy-in from the team towards the overall goal. Now, understand, milestones will reveal this progress that's being made while we're trying to achieve this goal. So don't forget, we need to celebrate with them too, any time that we've hit a milestone. And we'll talk about celebration here in just a minute. All right, so having visibility when it comes to tracking and measuring goals means that sometimes the plan just needs to be adjusted, right? Change is constant, change is complex. Change is, as a leader, you're probably dealing with change every single day. And this is not something to get frustrated over. It's something you just have to embrace and understand that it's a natural part of the process of what happens in business and goal achieving. Change is hard, particularly when you've devoted so much time and effort to achieving something. But following a goal that is, takes you to this unachievable end, or giving up on it altogether, may not be an option in your business, particularly when you have long-term goals in place. So you have to regroup with your team, right? You have to realign your goals. You have to maybe set some new milestones. And by doing that, you can re-energize your team. And you can keep that motivation going when you make some changes along the way. Again, this is important in the law of rhythm. The more often, the more consistent you are, the more easily it will be for you to identify the changes that need to be made. If you're only meeting, once every 6 months, it's going to be difficult to create change and be open, have your team be open to change if you're not meeting on a regular basis to identify these things. So that kind of leads us to this part where, we may be experiencing failures when it comes to our goal achievement. And honestly, every business, every person experiences that failure. Even when the goals are in place and you're tracking performance, sometimes that plan for the goal just doesn't serve the larger purpose. Or maybe the goal doesn't perform as planned. Staying focused on the big picture really provides this solid foundation for you to address your failures head on. And remember, a failure might just be a point where you're out of rhythm, right? You need to rest, you need to recuperate, and you need to relax, and you need to create a new vision for achieving that goal. I like to say that anytime anything like this happens, it creates an experience for us. Positive or negative doesn't matter. It's an experience. The best thing you can do as a leader is evaluate that experience, because in that failure, there's an opportunity, right? The word crisis in in the Chinese language means opportunity. In failure lies an opportunity to learn from your mistakes. Evaluate that experience, because on the other side of that failure is your success, right? You're just another step closer to making it, identifying a way to achieve the ultimate goal that you're working to achieve. So embrace your failures. They're letting you know. They're giving you, a record and accountability for what it is that you're doing, whether it's working or not. Now, the other side of this is, do not forget the importance of celebrating your successes. When you achieve your goals or a milestone, celebrate them with your team. It's important to do this because now you're acknowledging the contribution of your team, and you're helping them understand that the value that they bring to help you, meet your goals. And having them feel that way, having them know that they're valued by celebrating with them it's essential to the overall culture and success of the organization. So some things, if you have a financial goal that they're all working towards and you've accomplished that, celebrate by giving a small bonus, right? With my team on one of my teams I had on a quarterly basis, we would go for an offsite meeting and we would celebrate our successes. We would have a lunch together. I've worked in businesses where we would have dinners for families to come to. We would have trips for the high-performing departments or the high-performing sales reps, to reward them for the work they did. We had awards and rewards that we would give to people. One of the best things that we did too is we would hold regular town hall meetings, and that's where the president of the organization would get in front of everybody and talk about the successes that we had, and would give away, awards, or would, congratulate a team in front of all their peers and their colleagues on the success that they had. So there's a lot of great ways to reward your employees and to celebrate with them. but don't forget about it. It's important that you celebrate the successes along the way. And I've been talking about business, but also for yourself. Don't forget to celebrate yourself as well when you have that opportunity. Critical to your mental health. All right. Well, thank you so much for attending this event. And, I hope that this experience left you with some powerful tools to help you start achieving your goals. Remember, goal setting and goal achieving are two different things. One's an intellectual process, one is a lawful process. And we just really touched the tip of the iceberg, as they say when it came with that today. But I think you've got some really good tools and resources here that will help you to conquer your goals. Now, I want you to take a moment and think about the intention that you set at the beginning of this program. Revisit your intention, and then underneath that, what I want you to do is write down, what did you learn today? More than likely, there was I love it because one of my business mentors, Tom Peters, talks about BFOs, a blinding flash of the obvious. There was probably several things here today that you knew, and there was a blinding flash of the obvious, but you needed to hear it again. Maybe that's what you learned today. So write down what it was that you learned today. All right, so as we wrap up this event, I just want to say thanks again for attending. You have multiple ways you can stay in touch with me. I have a website, www.johnknapp.com. You go out there, you can sign up for my leadership newsletter. Also have an events calendar with my schedule of events that are coming up for the next several months, particularly with these business webinars that I'm hosting. So go out there, connect with me on social media. I have a Facebook page, Dr. John C. Knapp. I have a LinkedIn profile, Dr. John C. Knapp. You can connect with me out there. Also know that over the next several weeks, I'm going to be dropping a lot on social media when it comes to goals and conquering your goals. So if you go out and connect with me on LinkedIn or on my Facebook page, my professional page, you will be seeing that information as it comes from, as I post it out there on goal setting. All right, if there's anything I can do for you, please reach out. You have my email address here as well. I will post this video on my YouTube page, my YouTube channel, and I will send it a copy of this recording to everybody who registered today. So many thanks for being with me. Go out and create a fantastic week.